welcome back to Shock's Talks. I'm Shakti. This is my anomalous study hall, and today is Saturday, May 23rd, 2026. We just had the second drop of UAP files from the US government yesterday, and a lot of people are talking about this. I'm sure you've seen videos, I'm sure you've been analyzing some of the documents and videos yourself. But what I want to do today is just talk about the general energy around these drops and the questions that we have and theories of what might be going on. And then I want to share some notes with you from a really good analysis that I watched on News Nation. It's Ross Coulthart breaking down a couple of the significant videos with a small panel. And next weekend, I'm going back to Contact in the Desert. This will be my third time, I think. I have to go back and check my notes and everything, but I think it's my third time. And I almost skipped it this year because I've got a lot going on with work right now, but I'm locationally close by, so I decided to just make it happen last minute. I bought a day pass, so I'm going to go on Friday. I saw that that was the day when the schedule looked the most interesting to me, and I will be taking notes. I'll try to even get a little bit of video of the general vibe of things to share with you all, but Contact in the Desert asks that people don't film unless they're part of like the press or the crew there, and I don't like to break those kinds of rules because I really respect what they're doing, and they work really, really hard all year round to put on these events. And this year apparently has been like the hardest for them. It's like one of the biggest guest lists, and speaker lineup is really amazing, and it's just scaling up and up as this topic gains some momentum and more people want to find out what's going on. And if you have the means to go, I highly recommend checking it out one year because it's pretty life changing. Not only will you hear from some of the best people in the UAP disclosure movement, old timers, who have been at this for a very, very long time, way before it was safe, way before it was popular. And it's still not totally safe and it's still not totally popular. But there will come a day when everybody's talking about this and we're on the verge of a big change in terms of the public impression of whether or not we're alone. We know we're not. It's completely obvious by now that we're not. And now we have not only all of these independent researchers and historians and whistleblowers and civilians and experiencers and contactees and abductees talking about this stuff, but we also have a new level of legitimacy with the US government coming out and saying, here you go, war.gov/UAP or UFO, like this stuff is happening, this is real. So it is very significant, but it's also very overwhelming because a lot of people who aren't familiar with this topic are going to look at those videos and documents and it's going to mean nothing to them. First of all, when you're looking at radar data in general, it just looks blurry and not that interesting. Everyone's waiting for that 4K video to come out where they can see clearly what's going on. But in order to understand what you're looking at, you actually need to go to the experts who analyze that kind of footage for a living, or they've made it their hobby. And these people can explain to you, they can, got a little cat hair floating around. These people can help to explain to all of us what it is that they're looking for, what it is that they're seeing, and then it starts to make more sense. So, for this video that I have linked below for you, Ross Coulthart talks to retired Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet, very important UAP disclosure guy. He is a strategic advisor for the Sol Foundation, SOL. And he also talks to Hunt Willis, Chief Legal Officer for the Disclosure Foundation. This person really talks about the importance of the UAP Disclosure Act, the amendment to the NDAA that groups have been trying to push forward for the last couple years, and it still hasn't quite made it through. But he talks about what's important about that and what it could have done for us and how it could have helped us in this moment. And then Ross also speaks with Sarah Gam, former intelligence analyst. We've talked about her on this channel before, and she's someone who actually worked with some of the government organizations that were created to analyze UAP documents and videos and photos. And so she's very familiar with a lot of what is being released already. And she's also someone who's pretty deep into the psi realm now. She kind of left all of that intelligence and government stuff and went more into a psychic direction with her own personal journey, which I think makes a lot of sense because, as you all know from being here on Shocks Talks, once you dig into the UAP topic, you end up stumbling down the psi rabbit hole as well. And it might be the most important part of all of this. All of this strange stuff might just be pointing us towards a deeper understanding of the nature of reality and our own capabilities as humans. And the other guest is Billy Kryzak, Pro Pixel Video Analysis and Research. So this is someone who really works with this type of footage and knows how to analyze it in depth. So Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet only had a little bit of time on this panel. He had to go and do a bunch of other interviews. So Ross brings up a quote that he is quoting Tim Gallaudet from an email that he sent to Ross earlier before the interview. And he brings it up so that we can all understand just how serious this is, because it's easy to dismiss. It's easy to say, this is a whole lot of nothing. But what this quote says, this data leaves little doubt that components of the US government know that some UAP are non-anthropogenic vehicles, basically non-human. And so Ross flat out asks, are we talking about aliens here, Tim? And he says, again, like the company line, we don't know, but also I guess maybe people don't know. Some people do know, it seems like, but he says, we don't know. And I'm on the classified level. So this is why we want to bring this stuff out into the open. We want to get it into universities. We want to get it into the national labs. They also have a little conversation about how there's a lot of study already going on, but they just want to bring it out into the open. And he does emphasize again and again throughout his short time on this panel that he's not really sure what Trump is up to. He's not really sure what the agenda is here. He says it doesn't make a lot of sense to him. It's not easy to tell what's going on. Usually governments want to protect their appearance of being all powerful and knowing everything that's going on and having command over the air and water, space, and earth and in their territories. And this topic actually shows that we don't know what's going on and we don't have control and we are not the top dog. So he's saying again and again, like, I don't know what the deal is here, but we will find out. And he talks about how important it is that this drop, if you just see it at face value and you don't know what you're looking at, you're not going to recognize the significance of this. But in some of these documents, what we are getting confirmation of is the fact that the Pentagon and NASA and the government have been studying this. It's the whole story that we've been telling here on Shock Stocks. It's the whole story of the crash retrieval starting in the 1930s and 40s, the cover up, the reverse engineering. It basically confirms that all of these institutions know what's up and have been lying about it. So we're just getting that truth right now. But of course, it's not like the government is standing up at a podium having a press conference saying, hello, people of the United States. I'm so sorry to tell you that you've been lied to for 80 plus years. And right now we're trying to course correct and move forward into a new era of transparency, but it's going to be a little bit of an ontological shock. And so in order to process this information, let us break it down for you. Here is what has happened. Here's what we've done. Here is why we lied and covered it up. Here's what we're doing now. That's not what's happening right now. But there are enough people in this field that are doing that work for them because they're not going to be the ones to do that. So it's important for anyone who has doubt, though, to recognize that if you need to see some evidence and you're not getting that message from your spokespeople, go ahead and check out some of this stuff. And if you're research minded and know how to look through it, you might be able to figure out for yourself that, like, oh, that's what's happening here. For me, I'm not reading in detail every single thing. I'm skimming and I'm listening to the people I trust who are analyzing it, because it's never been about government disclosure for me. I have enough information to know what's going on just from doing my own research. And so these things are like, they're very important, but I only have so many hours in the day, and probably you too. And that's why you're here, because we just want to keep things moving. We only have so much time. This is like PhD level knowledge once you get deep into it. There's so much to learn. I'm barely scraping the surface myself. I'm really impressed with everyone who does take it on to really study this topic deeply, and those special kind of brains who can track all the details and name all the names, and they know exactly what went on in each program. Them doing that work gives me enough to distill down to my own understanding, which is this clear history and cover up, and then you start to go out into the branches of more anecdotal evidence that just kind of colors and flavors the overall story, and it's really interesting. Like I said before, Hunt Willis is the one who's really focusing on the legislation that's needed to continue moving forward. He reemphasizes the importance of the UAP Disclosure Act and what it can do for us, and so he's continuing to encourage people to participate politically. And if you want to do that, just go ahead and find the New Paradigm Institute, sign up for their newsletter. You'll get everything you need to know from them when it comes to this, because those are the people working on these laws. And that's what Danny Sheehan is doing. He'll be back at Contact this year. He's always there. And the other piece of that puzzle is the whistleblower protections. And what he says here is that a lot of the laws that are in place now that were created to protect whistleblowers were created about 50 years ago, and they didn't have the context of like how dangerous it is for these people now, how sensitive this information is, how nuanced the topic is. And so the laws need to be modernized in order to better protect current modern day whistleblowers. So these are the things that we need to help make happen if we want to keep getting more good information. A lot of these people are still having a lot of trouble when they come forward. Not only are their livelihoods threatened, their lives are sometimes threatened. Sometimes their families are in danger. Sometimes they lose their career and they can never work again, and they've been an expert in their field, and it's just really crushing, and they're trying to be heroic and do something for us, so we need to do something for them, and that is to continue to follow the work of the New Paradigm Institute and try to participate in whatever ways they present to us. And they make it so easy. Like, they'll always give you a template if you need to write a letter to like a congressperson, or if they want you to donate, they'll let you know and you can make your decision about what you want to do, but they make it really easy. They're trying to help us to help them to help these other people, and I really appreciate what they're doing. Another interesting part of the conversation between Ross and Hunt Willis is around the arrogance of the intelligence community. And you can understand why the people who are most fixated on information are going to become drunk with power at a certain point. And it's kind of this ebb and flow over time. And the last time they had to be reined in, according to Willis, was during the time when the church committee was formed. And that's when they were starting to hold the CIA accountable for some of the crazy stuff they were doing in the 60s and 70s. And he's kind of hinting at the fact that we're reaching that moment again where we need to start thinking about maybe another committee like that can help to hold these intelligence officers accountable, because there's been a lot more shady shit going on since then. And a lot of it has to do with the psi stuff and the psionics and human trafficking in order to create these people who are psionic assets who can use their psychic abilities to bring in anomalous phenomena for capture and study. And so we've heard from people like Jake Barber, who have kind of said things at certain points in time like, well, some of these people are just happy to have a job and they actually really love what they do and they're well taken care of. But then you start to hear these other stories where it's like, but also maybe they're being kidnapped and forced into this lifestyle, and maybe it's not as cool as it seems on the surface, at least from a certain angle. So there's a lot more investigation that needs to happen around how those programs are being formed and how people are being used and treated, and how people are being tested on as well, because we know in the last couple years the psionics who are speaking out are also speaking about things like the GATE program and testing on children. Julia Mossbridge is a big advocate for moving away from that kind of secretive, illegal testing without consent and moving towards open research and innovation that is rooted in love. And as cheesy as that sounds, there's actually a scientific reason for that. And it's because in order to activate certain psi abilities, there are two energetic or mental states that seem to amplify the abilities. One of them is stress, and the other is love. You could call it fear versus love, stress versus love, but the bottom line is we all know that there are different kinds of stimulus that help us to grow and evolve in this world. And maybe we need to step away from the kind that is all about stress inoculation and move towards a new version of experimentation around what it means to activate this loving energy. And this is the same energy that even people like Stephen Greer have been talking about for all these years. A lot of people recognize that getting in a loving, open hearted, meditative state is the way to summon this anomalous phenomena. It sounds so crazy, but this is what's going on. One last thing that I learned from Willis was around the role of the intelligence agencies and what they're really created for. He describes it as these institutions exist in order to assist the most powerful people in the government, the president and those closest to the president, in decision making. So what their job is to gather intel, to gather information so that they can bring it to the decision making room and help to inform the decisions that are being made. Now, this is a very different objective than what they've ended up doing. They've gone off the rails. They've gotten power hungry. In a way, it seems like these intelligence agents have turned into kind of rogue agents. There's a lot of secrecy around what it is that they have discovered, especially when it comes to human capabilities. And that secrecy is just serving them. It's not serving any of us. It's keeping them at an advantage and us at a disadvantage. And so it is time to hold them accountable again and basically redirect those groups to focus on what it is that they were always supposed to be doing. So Sarah Gam, some of the things that she was saying in her part of this panel had to do with her excitement around these videos, her hopeful attitude. She feels like this is all positive, but she also did say it is a little confusing because they are releasing basically a lot of debunkable videos alongside some significant documents and photos and videos. So what that means is that there might be a little bit of a psyop going on, or it might just be a big information dump, so you're getting everything. But if you've been following these government organizations that were created to investigate UFO and UAP, you probably know that they get all kinds of things sent their way. Some of it turns out to be nothing anomalous, and others are very clearly something that we don't quite understand. So in these dumps, we're getting a mixture of both. So sometimes you're going to see a video where everyone gets excited because they think that instantaneous acceleration is happening, and then someone says, no, that's an artifact of the camera tracking device moving this way and that way, and that's why it created that streak, and it just appeared to be instantaneous acceleration, but it wasn't. But actually, the object still does appear to be anomalous. So the video's still weird, but a part of it isn't true. Or those were birds, but those were orbs, but they were both in the same video. So that's what I liked about this analysis, is they start to break down the nuance of some of these pieces of evidence so that we don't get confused, because someone could say, in that one video, PR71 or whatever, they have like names with letters and numbers. They were just a bunch of birds flying around, and then everyone says, "Oh yeah, I already heard that video is debunked. It was all birds flying around." It's like, well, actually, there were these really anomalous orbs for half the video, and they were doing movements that birds can't do, and they were going in and out of the ocean, and then the tracking device pans left and you see a bunch of birds. So there's a lot going on right now, and everyone is just trying to keep an eye on what's behind all of this. What's the goal here? If I had to say what I think it is, I do think that it's a little haphazard. I do think it's a little bit like maybe it's just an attention grab. A lot of people have been speculating that just Trump loves numbers and loves the excitement and loves to get attention. And these websites, this government website has already had over 1 billion hits. And so maybe he's just feeling like, ooh, this is increasing my popularity, or it's keeping people distracted. Or maybe they're just throwing a bunch of information out there. Let us sort through it. Let them assess how smart are we? What are we getting out of this? I mean, everything is a psyop when intelligence is operating at the level that it is, because they're constantly assessing us. How do we respond? How do we react? What do we think of this stuff? And that gives them more information about us, and they can use that information to better control us. So, it is what it is, but that's the world we live in, and there is surveillance on all of us all the time. And so it's not hard to gather data on what it is that we feel about this information, and they can use that to determine their next move. What are they going to release next? How much do they want to let us know? One thing is for sure, they're never going to tell us the whole story. So I would suggest looking in other directions. And as I've mentioned so many times before, I think one of our best bets, if we want to find out what's going on, is to actually go within and to develop our own intuition and our own abilities of accessing information remotely. And that's why I think that this year is going to be all about psi and consciousness. This whole UAP UFO thing, it's almost like a distraction at this point. It's cool, it's important, it's interesting. We do want to see more. We do want to see those high resolution videos. We do want to hear about the actual aliens. Is it 4 species? Is it more than that? Are there bodies? Like, these rumors are starting to feel like we're going to see some stuff in relationship to the actual aliens very soon. But right now, we're just getting a whole mishmash of stuff, and some of it is stuff that's already been out for a long time. Like, for example, a certain type of craft or a certain type of anomalous phenomena, but it's just a new video showing the same thing. So it's nothing new, but it is a new piece of evidence. So an interesting thing that Sarah Gam has seen before in her work for the government was something that she called the jetpack man. And one of the other analysts here, this was Bill Kryzak, the pro pixel video researcher. They talked about this thing looking kind of like a marshmallow man. It's a really weird looking one, but Sarah Gam did say that that's a common UAP that they've seen over and over again. So again, there's all different kinds of things. They're not just saucers, they're not just orbs. There's a whole range of stuff going on, but a lot of orb activity. So he calls this marshmallow man also plasma man, and that can be found in the video PR59. The reason that this one guy, Billy, thought that that was a significant video in this drop is because he, in his research before this drop, had already received another video of that type of plasma man or jetpack man or marshmallow man. And he had also received a video from India of the same type of phenomena. And then there's the one in this drop. So he's commenting on how if you just see it once in one place, that only has a certain level of significance. But when you start to see it on different kinds of cameras from different locations around the world, and then the US government also shares one, that's pretty strong evidence that this particular thing is out there, and it's weird and nobody knows what it is, but it's like a real phenomena. It's not just like some artifact of, lens flare or something like that. And it's really, when you see it, it really looks like a physical object, but it's very strange. The shape is weird. I mean, that one, I wouldn't be surprised if it's something man made. When I looked at it, I was almost like, that looks like some kind of balloon or something, but who knows? Throughout this whole episode, Ross pokes at the president a few times. He's trying to goad him into, don't stop now, give us more. This is not enough. The people are not satisfied. So it's funny. Everyone has their different tactics. They all think they're dealing with Trump's ego and that he's listening to them. And, I'm sure there are people gathering information for him about what everyone is saying and distilling it down into some kind of report and letting him know. But the thing is, like, he seems to be kind of a wild card. Like, who knows why he's doing this and what he's going to do next. I think, again, as always, it's just most important that we stick to our own research and keep on moving ahead in our own journeys of understanding, regardless of what the government is doing. It is a very interesting summer, and things have been accelerating. Since I started this channel just a couple years ago, we are really in the thick of it right now. This is like more than anyone ever expected, and things are going faster because we're living in this technological era. We have the internet, we're sharing information faster. More and more people are becoming interested in the topic. The news spreads quickly, data spreads quickly. We're able to access these videos and look at them ourselves. And from the New York Times articles to the congressional hearings to now the US government dropping official releases of UFO stuff, no one can say any longer that this is all just a myth. It's undeniable that something's going on, and almost everyone I talk to these days has had their own direct experience of some kind of anomalous phenomena, whether it be UFOs or UAP in the sky, which is incredibly prevalent, come to find out. People come up to me all the time now and are just like, hey, can I tell you my story? And I'm like, yeah, please. Next Friday, Contact in the Desert 2026. And after that, I'll be going back to my Nancy Trivolato book and learning more about the velo technique, how to send energy up and down in order to create the vibrational state that is a precursor to the out of body state. So thanks as always for being here. Like, subscribe, share, and I'll see you next time on Shocks Talks.